So I've had this idea recently that I want to record what a day in the life looks like for someone who is relentlessly pursuing Christ. Um, and I realized that I didn't feel entirely um, able to do that right at this instant. And I was wondering why that was. Um, and it was because I wasn't like as focused, like probably the last couple weeks or so, is because I wasn't like as focused as I have been previously. And so I realized that, and I was trying to figure out like, okay, what can I do to regain that level of focus? What I'm missing? What do I need to change in order to get back to that mindset and that mentality? Um, and my guy, Kobe Bryant, has a quote. Let me pull it up and read it. He just says, "When you know what you're aiming for, the world becomes your library." And so I realized that, like, I had an overarching aim, which was just like, okay, I want to change to become the most like Jesus Christ that I possibly can be, and I'm going to relentlessly pursue him. But, as with all goals that we set, a goal without a plan is just a dream. And if we're being honest with ourselves, how often do dreams come true? Not very often. They totally can, but what usually makes a dream come true is when there is a very specific and dedicated plan that is thought through, put forth, and followed very consistently. And so I have been thinking about that and how I can apply it. And I'm going to introduce a tool that I built called the Forge. I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you know much about the church, the Church of Jesus Christ, one of the things they do is they send missionaries out everywhere. And I had the awesome opportunity to go and serve a mission. I spent about 10 weeks in the Philippines before I got sent home because of COVID. So that was like March 2020. And then I spent about a year and a half in the New Mexico Farmington mission, mostly serving on the Navajo and Hopi reservations. And absolutely loved it. And that was really where my initial desire to follow Christ and become more like him really took off. And I'm sure I'll share some of those experiences here at a later time. But one of the resources the church has put out is a manual called Preach My Gospel. It's just like a resource manual or a guidebook for the missionaries to teach them more of what they're supposed to teach about, help them figure out their missionary purpose, who they're supposed to become, how to teach better, how to find people to teach, a bunch of different things like that. Super, super helpful. Frankly, if any church took that playbook and tried to copy it for themselves, I think they'd have a lot better membership. But yeah, so one of the chapters there, it's chapter 6 in Preach My Gospel, is about developing Christ-like attributes. And that chapter was always, still is, always my favorite chapter. I've just always been obsessed with that ever since I learned it was a thing. And at the end of chapter 6, there is an activity that you can take where you, there's, I think, 13, maybe 11, somewhere between 11 and 14 different Christ-like attributes, with different statements about the Christ-like attribute, where you can rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 as to how well or poorly you think you're doing in regards to that aspect of a certain Christ-like attribute. And I remember I took it for the first time when I was in the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah, and I was scoring a 1. Scoring myself as like a 1, which is like never, basically, on almost everything. And I remember I was sitting there in a chair at a table, and I was right next to this big bay window, and it the window looked out to overlook the mountains, and it was raining that day, and I just remember scoring so low on almost everything and being like, holy crap, I'm really far from Jesus. As far as my character goes. And in that moment, the Spirit really bore witness to me of the reality that was what I needed to pursue. And that fire to change and to develop those Christ-like attributes has stayed with me ever since. It's been 6.5, 7 years now, somewhere in there. And so so I took that attribute activity many times on my mission. And it helped incredibly for me to refocus my efforts, become more self-aware, and help me to identify my weaknesses, and then also identify ways and make plans so that I could play to those weaknesses and work on turning them into strengths. And did so, obviously, with the help of the atonement of Jesus Christ and His strength and grace, with great success over the course of my mission. And I've been home about 4.5 years now from my mission, and I was thinking about it this week. I think I've only taken that attribute activity a handful of times since I've been back. And the last time that I took it, I remember I was in Arizona, and I remember, I forget, I was just at like a church class on a Wednesday or something, and I remember taking it and thinking, wow, I haven't taken this in a long time. I should change that. That was probably like 1.5 2 years ago, and I don't think I've taken it since. And so I'm trying to, I created the Forge with that idea in mind, and the idea that Kobe implemented when Kobe was a teenager, from like ages 13 to 17, roughly. He would, during the summers, when they played lots of games but didn't have lots of time to practice, he would play to his weaknesses during the games. So like he was not as good dribbling with his left hand as his right, so he would dribble with his left hand during the games, or he wasn't maybe as good at his pull-up jumpers as he was some other kind of shot, and so during the games he would play pull-up jumpers a lot more, and he would play to those weaknesses to allow himself the time and the reps so that they could turn into strengths. And at the end of 4 years, if he's doing that, and really no one else is doing that, like, as a teenager, you're going to do what you're good at most of the time, right? You're not really worried about the long term or about rounding out your game. And so by the time he was 17 and getting ready to go for the draft, his game became a lot more well-rounded than most of his peers. Now, obviously, becoming more like Jesus Christ isn't a competition between me and my peers, but between me and my past self, right? And so I can still think for the long term and try to beat who I am today with who I am tomorrow. And, or 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and on my deathbed. And so the Forge is a web app I designed and built that will take you through the questions on the Christ-like attribute activity at the end of chapter 6 in Preach My Gospel. I haven't changed any of the questions or anything, so full credit to the Church of Jesus Christ for creating that activity. I just adapted it to a mobile version. And then once you answer all those questions, the Forge will tell you your average score for each Christ-like attribute, because some attributes have more questions about them than others. And it will highlight the attribute that you scored the lowest on. The point here is to help you identify and become self-aware of what your weaknesses are, so that you can then craft a habit to work on for the next month to, like Kobe, play to those weaknesses and use the atonement and the enabling power of Jesus Christ to turn them into strengths, because that's what Jesus does. And so not only will it show you, it'll highlight the attribute that you average the lowest score with, it will also tell you which point, or like which question within that attribute you scored yourself the lowest on. So for instance, if I said, okay, my average score on patience was like a 2.7 or 2.5 or something, and my question, or the thing I answered a 1 on within the questions about patience was, I find myself judging others harshly and easily, or something else, and I said 1, or I think I'm butchering the format of the question here, but you get the point. It's like, if you're trying for patience, and you always find yourself judging others harshly and quickly, you're not very patient, right? So I guess you could say the point is, I am patient with those around me, and I answered 1, then I would never be very patient with those around me. And so then I could, then the Forge will say, okay, do you want to work on that? It also gives you the option to follow the Spirit and use your discretion if you feel like you should be working on another aspect of that or an entirely different attribute altogether. But highlights the weaknesses because that's usually what we need to work on and what God wants us to work on. And so then once you've selected a specific point to work on, you will go and you will build a habit that the goal is to implement daily for the next month in order to play to your self-identified weakness. And these habits are being built in a format that I created myself. It's called the Triple S method. You can search up on YouTube, and there'll probably be some videos that come up if you just search Triple S method habit building, something like that. I'm sure there will be some videos that come up to describe it more if you'd like. But I'll also describe it here. So, the Triple S method starts by making your habit specific. And you do that by assigning your habit a what, a when, and a where. The goal is to make it so specific that you can visualize it like you're watching a movie in your head. This creates what's called neural resonance in your brain. Essentially, when you attach an action with a location and a time, it helps your brain to remember it much better. And thereby gives you a better chance of actually doing it on a day-to-day basis. So, if we stick with our patient's example, actually, the example that's coming to my brain right now is obedience. And so, specifically like obedience with reading the scriptures, right? So like, let's say the thing you scored the lowest on and that you decided you wanted to work on was reading the scriptures consistently. You could say, okay, instead of I'm going to read the scriptures every day, you could say, I'm going to read the Book of Mormon for 15 minutes every day from 7 to 7:15 a.m. while I'm sitting at the desk in my bedroom with the light on, and I'm going to be reading my paper scriptures, and my phone is going to be on Do Not Disturb in the other room, right? Again, the goal is to make it so specific that you can visualize it like you're watching a movie in your head. And that will, like John 14:26 talks about, help the Spirit to bring that thing to your remembrance, because you have a much more tangible thing to bring to remembrance in the first place when you create that scene versus you just tell yourself, oh yeah, I'm gonna read my scriptures every day. So much more vague. Once you have the specificity identified, the next step is to make sure your habit is simple enough. And the way that you do that is you ask yourself, okay, do I feel 100% confident in my ability to stick with this habit every single day for the rest of my life? And if the answer is no, which initially is totally fine, right? To run through some iterations with this, that's pretty normal. Then that's okay. Excuse me. And you just go back to the specific stage and you redo or change some aspect of your what, when, and where until you have that level of confidence. So like, let's say, for example, you looked at your 15-minute scripture study habit that we just talked about, and you said, you know what, I don't actually remember the last time I've sat down and read the scriptures for 15 minutes straight. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Then you say, okay, well, maybe we need to start with 5 minutes, right? And then your level of confidence increases. You're like, oh yeah, 5 minutes? totally could do 5 minutes any day of the week, any shape I'm in. Yeah, I got 5 minutes to spend in the Book of Mormon there. So and then that gives you that level of confidence, right? And the reason why we do that is twofold. One, most people, when they set a habit with that level of specificity in the first place, they tend to feel pretty confident about it. But the goal here is to build a habit that you will actually stick with for the long term, right? And so pretty confident, frankly, just isn't going to cut it when it comes to the rigors of life, because life is going to put some challenges in your way. And if your habits aren't designed to help you to overcome those challenges, then they're going to fall. And once something falls, once a ball drops, it is going to be a lot harder to pick it back up. And so we design those in such a way to enable them to, hold on, let me rewind that real quick. So it's twofold. One, we make them simple, and we ask you that question, okay, do I feel 100% confident in my ability to stick to this every single day for the rest of my life? So that instead of you feeling pretty confident, being like, yeah, I got this, I'm pretty confident that I can totally do this. Now, after asking yourself that question, you're thinking like, oh, when are all of the times when I might miss this or when I might mess this up? And so it's kind of the inverse of that idea of like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? We're planning. And so we're avoiding those sets of failures or those areas or times at which we may fail by doing so. The second thing is that because we're making that habit so simple, it makes it a lot easier to get back on that train or to pick that ball back up in the event that we do drop it. Excuse me. Yeah, that's just where it goes. Like, let's say, I think the classic example here is like all of the January 1st people who go to the gym and they're like, this is my year. I'm going to get huge this year. I'm going to lose X amount of pounds, like 25 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds. Like, I've totally got this. I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week for an hour and a half each time. I think the statistics are like 80% of those people have already given up or something. Those statistics aren't real. It's like 80% of all New Year's resolutions are given up on by like Valentine's Day or something like that. Something ridiculously high. So, but you'll notice they said an hour and a half, 5 times a week. That's a huge commitment, especially if you're going from nothing to that. So we want to start more gradually than that. Make sure that you can hit that 5-minute a day goal, and then maybe down the line you're like, you know what, I'm feeling really good with this. I've been consistent for some months now. Let me ramp it up to 10 minutes. Or you don't even have to be consistent with it for a couple months, but you just want to start with something you absolutely know you can handle. And so then when you handle it, you build trust in yourself rather than giving up on your, goals and not doing what you said you were going to do, which is what most people do with their goals. We want to avoid that at all costs. And so those are the 2 reasons why we make our habits simple. And you can change the location, you can lower the time amount. It just depends. You adjust the what, when, and where in order to give yourself that level of confidence. Like, let's say maybe you couldn't read the paper scriptures for 15 minutes, but you could listen to those scriptures for 15 minutes on your way to work instead of whatever you were listening to before, right? So up to your interpretation, figure out what works for you, and will allow you to achieve your goal, which, let's be very clear here, goals and habits are two different things. Habits are the things you do on a daily, weekly, whatever type of basis that allow you to achieve your goals, that push you to achieve your goals. Yeah, not the same thing. So then, the last S in the triple S method is to seal your habit with some type of 1 second celebration. And I say 1 second, it doesn't actually have to be 1 second. It's exaggerated on purpose to get people to understand how important it is that this celebration aspect of things does not add any friction to the actual completion of your habit each day. So, an example there is like, instead of saying, okay, after I go to the gym, I'm going to go get a protein shake. Well, okay, maybe the protein shake place is another 5 minutes away and adds another 5 minutes on your drive back to your house. Like, plus you have to stand in line, wait for it, and you have to spend more money. So those are all things that are going to increase the friction between you and you actually getting getting the habit done of just going to the gym, right? Because there are going to be days where you're running low on time, and you're like, oh shoot, well, if I go to the gym now, then I'm not actually going to have time to go get my protein shake after the gym, so I guess that means I just shouldn't go. Wrong. So we want to make ourselves a celebration that is not going to add to that friction. So something like walking out of the gym, and this sounds so silly, but it's fine because your brain can't tell the difference between a silly celebration and a serious one. And you just like plaster this big old smile on your face and you say, let's go! You just like hype yourself up. Or my mom has a phrase that she says that has inspired a lot of people. That's just, I did what I said I was going to do. I have integrity. For her, that clarifying and like identifying that she has that character of integrity is huge for her. And so using that as like an affirmation, she doesn't even say it out loud. I think she just says it in her head or like reads it on a Post-it note or something. Yeah, something like that is so simple, and you can totally do it, and it doesn't add anything to the difficulty of the habit itself. Is super good. And the reason why we're doing this, there's a famous psychologist, B.F. Skinner. He did a bunch of studies with rats, training them and everything. And essentially, what he found is that what gets rewarded gets repeated. Obviously, in this case, it's the same for the rats as it is with humans. So we want to attach whatever habit or action that we're trying to work on as far as our weaknesses go, and then attach that with some type of reward, so that our brain starts to link those two things together, links that good feeling with the actual habit that we are trying to get ourselves to improve by doing, and thereby do it more often and have increase our desire to stay consistent with said habit. So yeah, that's a big part of what the Forge is. And so then once you have put that habit in, the Forge will store that habit written out, and then there's a tracker portion So the tracker portion tracks a couple different things. One, it will track on a day-to-day level whether you did your habit or not. It will keep a streak tally for you, and will keep an overall tally of how many times you've done the habit total. And then the biggest thing that I'm interested in, for myself at least, is it'll track all of the average answers that you gave yourself for each attribute. The goal here is to take that Christ-like attribute activity once a month, the first Sunday of every month. In the Church of Jesus Christ, we practice fasting on a monthly basis, and in order to help show God that we are willing to submit to Him and be obedient, and that we really want what we're fasting for. And so, like, you always fast with a purpose in mind, or else you're just starving yourself. Which has great health benefits, but not nearly as much so from a mental or spiritual standpoint if you fast without without a purpose in mind. Anyways, so yeah, I kind of wanted to correlate those things for myself, so that I can fast the next month for the weakness that I identified in myself, and fast for the habit that I am going to start implementing that next month to play to that weakness, to be something that helps me to round out my game in that way. So that works for me. And the Forge will track the average answers that you give yourself for each Christ-like attribute month after month after month, and then graph those in a line graph. So you can see your progress or lack thereof on a more macro scale, which will then allow further introspection and self-awareness as you start to notice trends over time as far as how you are ranking yourself with different attributes. So yeah, super excited to do that. And this tool currently is free. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. As of right now, besides use it myself, I've sent it to a number of my friends to test out. And so they'll be able to use it, and I'm not sure where all this is going to go, but I'm currently brainstorming. I want to use this attribute activity in my endeavors to relentlessly pursue Christ with this tool that I built, the Forge. I want to make that kind of the focal point of this relentless pursuit of Christ platform, with the idea that it will be a tool that a lot of other people choose to adopt, and will help them to be better as well, or to be more Christ-like, not just better. Because trying to be more like Jesus will always give me a better return than trying to be a better me. And so yeah, I will, the link is https://the-forge-rpoc.netlify.app. So you can search that up. It's also available on habitengineer.info, where our official website, not habitengineer.info, Relentless Pursuit of Christ, .netlify.app is where it is. as well. You can access it through our official website there. And I think it's also one of the links on the Substack page and the Facebook page. But yeah, I invite anyone who's listening to this or listens to this in the future to go test it out. See if it helps you to identify some of the weaknesses in your game when it comes to becoming like Christ. And ideally use it to help streamline your focus in turning your weaknesses into strengths with Christ and by Christ through Christ. That was one of the things that I think I've been missing recently is I have this widespread desire of yes, I want to become more like Christ, but I haven't been as focused the last couple weeks in I have this specific thing that I'm working on right now to do that. And so this will give me that focus back. I'm excited to try it myself. I'm excited to try it with you guys. I want to do some type of little daily update of hey, this is how it went today. As far as me, trying to actually do the habit or not, and relentlessly pursue Christ in that way, and use the daily post kind of as an accountability buddy. But it's going to depend on the habit as to whether that it's really workable or not, and it's not just me recording a 3-second voice recording that says, hey, yeah, I did it today, or something like that. So, who knows, maybe we'll make it a weekly thing. I don't know. I'll kick around exactly how I want to talk about my experiences using the Forge to relentlessly pursue Christ. I'll figure that out. Keep mulling on that. If anyone listens to this and has any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Would love to hear it. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. Today's the 4th of July, so happy 250th birthday, America. I can think of nothing more American than choosing to change yourself to make your life better than what it once was. Yeah. Cheers. Jesus lives. He is the Christ. Peace.